Is it time? Yeah, it's time. Welcome to the True Craft Podcast. I am your host, Chris Farman, and I'm joined by co-host, Katy Noel. This time around, we are all about one thing: killer conversations with close friends about the state of craft. Oh, it's going to be good. I hope to open the box on fresh topics while honoring the path that got us here. Let's do it. All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of the True Craft Podcast. Today we have Terry Horner from Liability Brewing out of Greenville, South Carolina. What's up,
Good
Terry?
to be here again. Things are going well over here. Good to be here again. I'm glad you asked me back. That means the first time around I must have did something right or not done too much wrong.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was great. So for all the listeners that want to hear Terry's story and how he got Liability started, check out season 1, episode 7 for the recap. We're gonna just move right along into the topic. But before we do that, I do want to shout out to Greenville once again. It remains one of my favorite cities in the South. Is it still cool?
It's still cool. I mean, it's cool enough for you to visit twice, right? 3 times. How many times you been to our place? Twice at least.
So we drive through there every time we go to North Carolina, which is which is often, but we've stayed there twice.
Yeah, it is still cool. Still growing. Lots of great things going on outside the beer community, and lots of great things going on inside the beer community too.
Good.
I want to hear a couple examples.
Couple of examples of cool things that are going on.
Yeah.
Great question. So lots of development. I mean, I think if you are a reader of Southern Living, I don't read it, but my wife does and her friends do and a whole bunch of people do, apparently, because it's successful. Greenville is always in the top 5 or top 10 of best cities to do this thing, live, retire, like all of the things. So we're super close to the mountains. I mean, I'm a transplant here. I've lived here a little over 11 years, and we came here from the mountains. We came here to the proximity of the beach, all of that stuff. But it's a great spot. We've got a great university. Clemson University is down the road. Won a couple national championships. If folks are into sports, lots of engineering talent and other folks coming out of there. And so we have a little bit of a college feel. Not too much, but we've got BMW's U.S. headquarters are here. So all of the X Series vehicles in the world, not just the U.S., in the world, are made in Greenville and Spartanburg. And other cool stuff are just we have new restaurants, new venues opening up every other week.
So it's booming.
It's booming. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of hard to compete with as a small brewery, but yeah, it's booming. We did not have the downturn during COVID like a lot of places did. We kept going up and up and up, and there's continued development and all kinds of awesome things that are being built here.
Very cool.
Yep. So as mentioned in our original episode 1, the relaunch of the True Craft Podcast isn't so much about the brewery story as it is about the people behind the beer, the founders, the owners. And I really want to get through, because we all know that most breweries started within the same manner. And today's episode is really a testament to Terry, you and your wife, and what you guys stand for. And what we're going to talk about today is how you've become a certified B Corp. And I have always been super confused about this. I knew it was a designation. I didn't know who handed it out. I didn't know how you get it.
Can someone tell me what that is real quick?
A certified beer corp? Yeah, we're going to get to that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we're gonna totally get to that. But I just want to give a little rant in that you have completely changed my outlook on what a B Corp is, and we'll get more into that in a little bit. But let's start off with, tell us what a B Corp is.
Yes. So in a nutshell, a B Corp is there's 2 things, and I'll talk about them independently, even though they're related. So A B certified B Corp, what we are, is a certification like LEED or anything else like that, where you go through a rigorous process of evaluation from a third party, and they come in and have really long checklists and point systems where they evaluate everything about your company to determine if you live up to that standard of becoming a B Corp. And so what it really is, though, like as a designation, as a benefit corporation, which I think 36 states have now, it's been ramping up over the last 5 or 6 years, where it's like C Corp, LLC, any other corporate designation, but it is codified separately in law of each state who has it, where you're basically incorporating not just to be a capitalist, not just for profit, not just for the share, the board and all the shareholders. You are meant to be a force for good. So, and that includes, the community, your employees, the way that your business practices, everything, basically you live by a different code, and that code is not profit, which is, I understand, totally ironic given the people I'm talking to here. Chris, you have the hat that says profit, but don't get me wrong, we're not throwing profit out the window. Anyway, it allows you to have a different designation where it's not just all about profits. And it's something that I learned about probably like 15 years ago, where the legal sense, but then B Corp, the actual certification, came around, and it's kind of like an accountability standard for that, to say like, yeah, you can legally designate yourself as a benefit corporation. Each state will have its own requirements for what you need to adhere to. The public benefit report that I sent you, like other things you have to check boxes on. But when it really comes to being held accountable of what the standard of what most B Corps have become, that's what the B Labs is the name of the company, the nonprofit that does the B Corp certification.
Are B Labs the only player out there that certifies B Corps, or do they have?
That's actually a question I don't know the answer to. They are the nonprofit that does this.
Okay.
I would imagine like LEED and other things, there are probably other certifications, but when you talk about B Corps and in the seal, you'll see the circle with the B in it. That is B Labs.
Okay, and tell us a little bit more about the certification process.
Yes.
Is it days? Is it someone camping out there? Is it? Walk us through it.
So, funny story. We started our certification 2 months before COVID happened, and so that changed the whole entire dynamic of how this process worked. Normally, they say that it's supposed to be 6 months. So when we first started thinking about it, we went to a seminar at GABF at Patagonia in Denver, and Patagonia was there, Upslope and some other New Belgium were there talking about their process. And basically they said, just go fill out the survey, see how many points you have. You're going to have more than you think. And then you start talking with the B Labs folks, and it should take like 6 months to a year for all of that stuff to work itself out. That was not our story, nor do I imagine it was the same story for other folks who did it during COVID, because B Lab, I believe, had to let some people go. There was like all kinds of upheaval all across all industries, and it was a lot harder to communicate. There was no in-person factor for us. We basically had to provide tons and tons and tons of documentation around all the things we did, and then they picked through that with one of the finer tooth combs that I've ever been picked through by, and told us, here's where you're lacking, here's what you need to work on. And so it was, for us, it ended up being from the time we started it until the time we were actually certified, it was a little bit over 2 years.
And if it was an in-person deal, it would take about 6 months, you said?
Unsure.
Okay.
When I'm not sure how much things have changed since COVID. I know that they're also, B Lab is revamping their process. So they have this core process that us and all the other B Corps went through. They're certified now, and they're adding like 5 more standards to the criteria. And so the next time we go through recertification, which happens every couple of years, we will go through this new standard that they're about to put out.
Okay.
And what drew you to wanting to get certified as a B Corp?
Very great question. So I think I mentioned already, I had heard about benefit corporations, the concept, uh, many years ago, and I have always been a type of person who is trying to, make an impact make a benefit on the world, and do this for reasons that are not just capitalist. And so codifying that is really difficult. Like, how do you, if we're talking about sustainability, sustainability, B Corp is sustainability is only one part of it. Sustainability is a big topic with all craft brewers. We're agricultural product. We're local. We are able to have those conversations with folks, and so that in and of itself is great, and I think allows us to convince consumers that we're doing something differently than mass produced products. But it really, for me, one of my superpowers is building teams, and I've always tried to figure out a way that I could build a team that was sustainable, that I could pay people well, probably better than others in the industry, that really took their needs into account and their growth. And so I come from tech, which that is a little bit easier because we had money flowing in to do those kinds of things. But translating that to and giving another example is giving employees ownership in the company. I come from a place where in tech that kind of, I don't think we pioneered that, but it was very important to the founders of all companies that I've ever worked for and the companies that I've built, that this was more than just about us trying to make as much money as possible in as short a time as possible. We wanted to take care of each other, build something that was long-term and that people believed in, and that our customers believed in. And so part of that is making things sustainable for employees and keeping them around, investing in them, because I'm a big believer in you get out what you put in. If you're going to pay your employees a tipped wage, which in every state is nothing, and I don't know how people live on, you're gonna get what you pay for. But if you pay and invest in not only the financial aspects of things, but benefits, health insurance, educational opportunities, everything that goes with building a great person, that person's going to give back to you more than what you put in, and they're going to want to remain a part of your organization, which ends up, it's the rising tide effect. Mm-hmm. You treat your employees well. This is not just hyperbole. Treat your employees well, you invest in them, and you get the best possible. You allow them to do the best work of their lives. And I always was trying to figure out a way to do that. And with B Corp, this standard, it's one thing. We were already doing a lot of this stuff before we got certified. But the standard, when I really thought about it, and I was glad you picked this topic of the ones I gave to you, by the way, the standard is really, it holds us accountable. Mm-hmm. It allows us to, it's like a mindset. Mm-hmm. My employees we don't recycle glass in South Carolina. The state doesn't. So too expensive. But we figured out a way to do it because it's important to us. We just got the ability to sell kegs to consumers in South Carolina. Initially, it's like, all right, just do a one-way keg. It's plastic. They can throw it in the trash. No, that creates waste. People aren't going to recycle it. You can't recycle the whole thing. So we're not doing it that way. We're going to use our stainless steel like we do for in-house and have them bring it back to us, because that's, it really makes us think differently. And there's hundreds of other tiny examples of the decisions we make because we are a B Corp, because it's a mindset that we hold ourselves accountable to all the time, with every decision we make.
What was one of the biggest changes that either came down from B Labs or you learned from this experience that you had to make as an operating business?
Not too many, to tell you the truth. I think a lot of it was more, we were already practicing things and they wanted us to document that we were actually practicing the things. So having that evidence that you do this, we're not just going to take your word for it. We need to see numbers. We need to see the financials. If you're saying you're paying a livable wage, we need to see that. We need to see how they asked us for how close people live. All of our employees live to the brewery. There's points based on like how far people live away from
That's
their brewery.
interesting.
Yes. I'd say maybe one of the bigger ones is focusing on buying things from local companies instead of that reduces your carbon footprint, all that stuff, instead of companies throughout the country. But if you are doing business with others throughout like, for instance, we can't grow hops in South Carolina. The climate just doesn't allow it. But Crosby is one of the bigger craft hop producers out there, and they are also a B Corp. So we pretty much exclusively, except for like a tiny, like 0.5% of our hops, where they're specialty hops, we buy all of our hops through Crosby, and they have their own B Corp sustainability and benefit processes like we do, salmon safe, like all kinds of things that they do that align with our values. So we didn't have to change much, but like I said, because we believed it. This was we were just putting in on paper what we actually believe. And I think, the local thing was probably the bigger, because it's easy, just go on Amazon, right? Like, I need this today. We try not to do that.
Yeah.
Did you see a shift in your culture when you made this transition?
That's a great question. I think in little ways, yes, because we always talked about sustainability and we always talked about livable wages, but this is a silly example. Ironically, Chris, it was right before I saw you in Minneapolis at that car smashing after party thing we went to. There was a
that sounds like another story that we got to hear.
Yes, well, all the craft beer people who were at that CBC know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So there was a sign-up sheet, and one of my brewers was in front of me, and it had lines printed on it to sign your name. And he's like, "No, I'm just going to write in the margins because I don't want to waste paper." That's B Corp right there. And I was like, it's those like all of those little things like that add up.
Funny.
And it's kind of like this thing that is in the back of people's minds all the time, where they start to make decisions, even subconsciously, they're making these decisions because of the things we believe and the accountability we hold ourselves to with the certification.
It totally sounds like you had the mindset going into it. So the whole process sounds like it was enjoyable, and it's something that you wanted to achieve. What you weren't going in begrudged or chapped about it. So that's awesome.
Well, I would say it wasn't enjoyable. The process itself was not enjoyable.
Well,
but
is that because of COVID?
I think a lot of it was because of COVID. But it's also because it's hard. Like this is not meant to be something that everyone can achieve. And so if y'all have ever, not if, all the hard things y'all have ever done, I guarantee you there's been a time where you're like, why am I doing this? I already do all these things. Why do I need a certification? But you stick through it and you get it. And that certification at the end is all these things I've talked about already. So the process wasn't fun, but that should not scare anyone away, because building a brewery isn't always fun. Building an accounting firm for breweries isn't always fun.
What do you mean? Who would you recommend? So if someone's listening and they've been thinking about this, who would you recommend to become a B Corp or to go through this process? What would you say about that?
If I go back to the person I was when I initially heard about benefit corporations, I think every company can do it. And I don't know if every company should do it, but if you really truly believe in all the things that I'm talking about, and there's lots of other things out there, then you should do this, because it is a way to hold yourself accountable, and it really does change the way that you operate your business, and it changes the way you treat your employees, and forces you to it forces you to be better humans maybe than otherwise.
And who shouldn't do it?
Who shouldn't do it?
Yeah.
I don't know. There are there are some industries where people are just trying to make as much money as fast as possible. They probably shouldn't do it. They won't fit. Or, industries where, I don't know, actually, I wasn't anticipating that question. I'm going to think about that and get back to you.
Yeah, please let me know.
So Terry, I've known you for, I'd say, at least 8 years now, 7 or 8 years now, and this is all making sense now. It's all coming together with this conversation. It really is.
All my numbers you look at and you're like, what is he doing? Now it's all.
I mean that, but more than that, more than just the numbers, right? Because sometimes I do feel alone on the profit pedestal. On my pulpit, like screaming about profit. It's sometimes like, all right, it's enough, right? There's got to be more to it than just profit. So this is all making total sense. Before the episode, you forwarded us a beautiful annual benefits report. I mean, my first question to you before the show started was, does this B Labs create this beautiful handout or printout? And you said, no, actually you and your wife did it. Tell us a little bit more. Tell us what it's called. Tell us who do you give it to? Who do you like? What's the purpose of the report?
Yeah, the purpose of the report, that's a state requirement, a state law requirement that if you are a benefit corporation, you have to report on what your benefit is. Like, what are you actually doing to deserve the designation of a benefit corporation? And so this particular report I linked you to, that is the public copy of it. We also, for our shareholders, there's only three of us plus our employees, that we also have a shareholders version of the report that offers all of the numbers for our financials so that our employees can see it, the shareholders see it. It's something that we, like, another part of the B Corp certification I didn't mention is transparency. So we talk about these things all the time with everybody. And this report, the public can go out there and see how much waste we diverted from landfills, how much money we deserve, or a percentage of profits we donated to charities, how much, like all of those types of numbers that show the actual impact that we're having. Because this is measurable, right? This is not, we're just taking these steps. This is, here are our numbers. Here, how much CO2 gas we saved by spunding and various things like that.
And is this just public? So can we put it in the show notes, Katy? Can we somehow publish this in the show notes or make it? Okay.
Yeah, it's on it, and it's on our website too. So anyone that goes to our website can see it. Publish this link. That's what it's out there for.
Yeah,
we're not the only ones doing
it. Very cool.
So we have an episode coming out in a few weeks that is about brewing sustainability. And I have the feeling that it's going to be focused on brewing sustainability. Like, what do we do with our grains? What do we do with our water? This B Corp is way bigger than this, than just brewing. It's the whole, and I love it. I never really put the pieces together as to how powerful and how good this can be for the company and so on. So great stuff. Do you mind if people reach out to you if they have questions?
Yeah, I don't mind, actually. Just, please reach out to me. We had help along the way too. Upslope was gracious enough to help us and also tell us we were crazy because they had a dedicated person. Like, this is their whole job, is doing B Corp and all of the things. And we only had 10 people at the time when we were doing this, and most of them were either making beer or selling beer. So this was a labor of love for my wife Kathy, and she was kind of the driving force behind all of this. And I was going to ask you if she could come along today, but she couldn't make it. So
I would love to.
Perhaps a later podcast, but yes, please reach out to us. We had help. The times we were pulling our hair out where we didn't understand what they were asking for, Upslope helped us. And I know that when we called them, they said, yes, of course, like we'll talk to you about this. And I would imagine that all of the other 17 B Corp breweries throughout the country would be glad to help as well. It's part of the deal.
So you're one of 17?
one of 17. And I'll read some names that you might know. Alchemist, Allagash, New Belgium, Brewery Vivant. Those are some creature comforts.
Yeah.
Brewery Vivant, I think, was the first B Corp brewery. And then, so those are B Corp breweries. And then, like, of course, Patagonia, Allbirds, Athleta, Ocean Bottle, those are like big national B Corp companies. For breweries, we are a very small group.
So it's 17 total B Corps, not 17 brewery B Corps.
No, it's 18 including us.
Oh.
Total brewery B Corps. I'm not actually sure how many B Corps there are. There are only 22 total B Corps in the state of South Carolina. I know that. But
okay.
Worldwide, this is a worldwide thing. This is not just the US. Yep. So worldwide, I'm not sure on what the numbers are.
Shout out to Brewery Vermont. We love Jason and Chris. They're just amazing people. Great operators and owners, and just good people.
Very inspirational to us and this whole thing.
Awesome. Well, hey, Terry, I really appreciate you coming back on the True Craft podcast. This episode was huge. I learned so much about this, and I'm kind of motivated. I'm kind of motivated, Katie. You think we could become an accounting B Corp?
I think it's possible. I think we're all remote. I don't know. Something.
We got to look into it. We got to see how many CPA firms are B Corps, if any.
We'd be the first.
I guarantee you there's at least one. Yeah, I'd be shocked if there wasn't.
I'm curious now. You have completely opened my eyes to this concept and this certification, and I'm like motivated now. I have a new burst of energy to explore this world.
Good. I have done my job as a B Corp owner then.
It just comes across your passion for this.
Yes.
Like, I wanted to ask you, as a brewery owner, what do you see as your purpose for like yourself in that role? And I feel like you've already kind of, gone through that. But if you had anything else to add, I'd love to hear it. I love hearing you talk about it.
Summing it up, it's taking care of people, building something that makes a positive impact on the world and seeing smiles on people's faces as a result. That's it.
I love that.
Awesome, man.
Where can people find out more about Liability Brewing?
We are on all the social media things, and our website is liabilitybrewing.co. All our social handles are at Liability Beer, and you will not have trouble finding us if you want to reach out.
Perfect.
Love it. All right, man. I appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
See you, buddy. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the True Craft Podcast. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player. And if you are just dying to know what Chris and I look like, you can head over to YouTube for a video recording of the show. Links to cool information about our guests and other fun facts can be found in the show notes. This podcast is sponsored by Small Batch Standard, the premier financial agency built to serve the craft brewing industry. We help craft breweries grow profits through outsourced accounting, tax compliance, and growth consulting. Visit sbstandard.com today to learn more and request a discovery call.